Hi, my name is Tiger Rahman, and thank you for joining this afternoon for this class on embodying your life purpose using your birth chart. This will be about 45 minutes, and it's largely split up into two parts. In the first part of it, we'll just set some context and introduce this concept and really what the practice is. And then the second half, we'll actually do the practice with some guided meditation and some gentle movement. I'm going to go ahead and share this screen and we can hop in. So in the next 40 minutes, you'll get some context for why we might want to use astrology in this kind of work. And specifically, I'm calling this out as part of Yoga Week and a yoga practice because it's really focusing on this self-exploration or self-study that is Svadhyaya in the yamas and niyamas. We're paying attention to our life purpose, or really what our dharma is, and we're practicing forms of meditation and focus in dhyana. So from that aspect, you're getting into a lot of the philosophy and practice of yoga. There will be a little bit of movement practice, but really this is about sort of the bigger picture of how we're integrating yoga into our life and making our life richer. So we'll learn to use your natal chart and find your north node placement. We'll talk about why the north node is important very briefly. You'll identify the themes associated with your natal north node and where that's placed in your chart. We'll work with mantra meditation and visualization to explore what this theme means for you. And then, as I mentioned before, we'll incorporate a little bit of movement practice to get some richer knowledge from your body on this theme. So really using the embedded knowledge and the embodied knowledge that we already have. What you'll be able to do as a result of this, hopefully, is to personalize a mantra and visualization practice for yourself based on elements and themes in your birth chart. So you will be working with the North Node today as relates to life purpose, but ideally you could use or customize this type of practice to use your birth chart in any kind of self-inquiry type of practice that you'd like. So it's touching on why we would want to use astrology. So I think of astrology as the oldest clock that humanity has devised. It has a lot of tropes and archetypes, sort of like memes, really, embedded into it. And all of these symbols and suggestions for interpreting the world around us exist in astrology through patterns and cycles. We can use astrology as a personal reflection tool, and this is really powerful because it can help to call you in to reevaluate parts of yourself or even the society around you that you might otherwise put aside. It can really help us to notice what we might otherwise ignore because it's something that we can come back to time and time again, and your birth chart doesn't change. It's a fixed thing that you can use to meditate on. For our purposes, we can use our north node placement. In Vedic astrology or Jyotish, it's called Rahu. And we can use that to explore our sense of life purpose in a renewed way. The north node is important because it serves as an indication of your dharmic growth point in this lifetime, as opposed to the south node, which is associated with sort of the past life karmas that you've already collected and works that you've already done. So for this, you will need preferably a copy of your birth chart. But if you don't know your birth time or even place, you can, there's a couple of options. So you can generate a chart if you do have your birth time in place on a website like astro.com. And I'll include, hopefully in the description, like a link so that you can jump directly to the part where it can help you make your own chart. If you don't have your birth chart, there's also reference tables you can use. And I also have a link for that. when you're looking at your birth chart, and I'll show this in just a second with an example chart, but you'll be looking for this glyph on the right-hand side that just sort of looks like a pair of headphones. This is the glyph that's used for the North Node. And this is true whether you're looking at a Western style chart or if you're looking at a South Indian or East Indian style chart, it will still be this sort of headphone glyph that is the North Node. So here's an example of a chart, and it's blown up a little bit, but this is from astro.com. And so I'll just highlight where you would look with the little red pointer. So in this listing on the left-hand side, there's a table, and it's telling you Sun, Moon, Mercury. So these are all the different planets in your chart. You'll get down to True Node, and that's going to be your North Node placement. So to the right of that, it'll give you a number, and then it'll give you the first 3 letters of the sign name. So in this example, it's 22 degrees and 26 seconds of Aquarius is what it's telling us. If you wanted to look at it in the actual chart itself, there are a lot of things going on here, but we're still looking for the little headphones. And so you'll see over here that the pair of headphones is in sort of the squiggly sign, which is Aquarius. I would recommend, unless you are already familiar with what all of the glyphs are and which zodiac sign they're referring to just read down the list to the true node placement. And that will tell you right off top which you're looking at. If you are using a calculator, so you don't want to use that website and like get your full birth chart, or you don't have a specific birth time, that's fine. There's a calculator, and I typed in the URL for this down here as well, aquarianastrology.org. There's a couple of these that you can find, but I like this one because you can search for things. And so you would just put in your birth year, even would probably be sufficient. The North Node moves every 18 months. So if you put in a year, there'll really only be 2 options, just depending on what the date is. The format they give here is the year followed by the month followed by the day. So we can see that in 1986, the North Node was in Aries from April 7th until December of 1987. And then at the very end of 1987, which is what I'd searched for over here, it shifted down into Pisces. And so people born in that 18-month window have their North Node in Pisces. The sign on the other side of the slash is the South Node placement, and it's always just exact opposites on the wheel. So once you know your North Node placement, you always know your South Node placement. So that is something to look at, but we only need to pay attention to what's on the left-hand side because the content here is blended, so it includes both themes for you. So once you find your sign placement, what we'll want to do is to find a theme and craft a mantra to work with. So what I've typed in here, we've got a table of all 12 of the zodiac signs. And what you'll want to do is find the sign that your North Node is placed in. So in that last example, we had Aries as one of the ones that popped up. So if your North Node was in Aries, if you were born in most of 1986, for example, which is my birth year, your North Node would be in Aries. If you were born in 1987 or 88, your North Node might be in Pisces. And so you can use this to find your sign. You'll see here that there's these sort of short phrases. This is adapted from a book by Jan Spiller on astrology of the soul. She has about 40 pages of content for each North Node placement. So it's a really great reference book if you find that you get really interested in this topic and idea. This is a very boiled down sort of suggestion of the big idea theme of each of these placements. And the reason that I offer these not as specific mantras, you could certainly just start with one of these, but you'll likely want to customize it a little bit because you know your life best without spending time doing a full chart reading. There's nothing that I can know about you more than you will know for yourself. So I, as with a North Node in Aries, the general theme here is in order to nurture others, I need to nurture myself. Usually you'll find with these themes that there's actually, and it's probably the one across in the table that feels more natural to you. So for me, it actually feels more natural to really get behind this idea of like, yeah, the more I share with people, the more abundance there is in the world. Like that's how I personally like to operate. The thing about the North Node is it's what we haven't done yet. It's what we're learning and working on in this lifetime, and where we don't have as much experience. And so particularly, I find in the areas that are related to my North Node placement, those are the ones that feel most uncomfortable out of anything in this table. And so if you are having that reaction, that means that you're probably onto the right idea. If you are using your full birth chart, there's two things you can do. So there's this general theme that's based on your North Node placement, but there is also this secondary layer where you're able to specify just a little bit more the theme that is happening. So to do that, you would count to see what house your North Node is. So this is the same chart that I had used before, and we can see the North Node is down here in Aquarius. This person or this chart is a Libra rising, or their ascendant is in Libra. And if you've used astro.com, it'll kind of automatically put the ascendant just at this middle of the left-hand side. And so what you'll be able to do is count counterclockwise to see which house it's in. So the ascendant is always in the first house. So you would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this would give you a 5th house placement for the North Node. You'll also notice that there are these other wedges on the inside. And for the purposes of this class, you can just leave those alone. So you'll see here, this is just the detailing out. North Node is in Aquarius, which is 4 houses past the first sign. So here's the table again, and I'm just going to pause here for a second just to give you a chance to look over it. What I would recommend here is if you've got a notebook, maybe take a minute or two just to work with that idea and theme. If you're just using the sign that your house is in, then you can just work with one. If you also know what house your North Node is in, then you might find that you're combining them a little bit. And I think I have an example, actually. So here's a personal example, and this is from my chart. So for me, my North Node is in Aries. It's in the 6th house, but it's actually conjunct my 5th house cusp. And if that's something that you're interested in more, feel free to reach out to me. We can talk or do a chart reading or something like that. But I've got Aries, the 6th house energy, and this 5th house energy. So the themes that are coming from this, and this is from that table, is this idea of nurturing others by nurturing myself, engaging in order to receive joy. So I have to go and do something about it in order to get something back. And then this idea of sparking joy is very fifth house, this idea of being playful and creative and putting yourself out there and just being comfortable and enjoying yourself and how you're showing up. And so for me, when I combine these working mantra, and I'm calling it a working mantra because it's a suggestion I'm giving myself to get started in this meditation, but it's not necessarily like a perfect like mantra that I'm going to repeat for my whole life. What it does do is it gets me into the space of being able to take the meaning of the idea. So for me, this is looking at the fact that I need to seek out joy in order to care for myself. And when I care for myself, I care for others. And so this is a kind of statement that it's got kind of two sides to it. And so I know that I can use that and sync that with my breath and really focus on that phrase and idea in a couple of rounds. So I'll go back to this table and spend a couple of minutes. You can either pause the video, I'll pause for about 30 seconds here, but spend some time just thinking about what a good working mantra is. And it doesn't need to be perfect, because as you work with this in your meditation, really just the meaning will be what you're focusing on and not so much the specific words. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and continue here. If you want more time, definitely just hit pause and we can do that. I showed my example here. There's one other piece to this, and then we'll kind of recap to make sure that you've got all of the pieces that you're going to want. And this is going to actually help us in the meditation so that we can start embodying it. Right now, it's very mental. It's just this abstract idea. I've probably been talking too fast. So here we're going to move from mind to body. And really, we're going to start this in the subtle body, the energetic body with the chakras. So on the left-hand side in the kind of rainbow Skittles chart, you've got, we don't include the crown chakra within the zodiac because it's kind of sitting above everything. But from the third eye down to your root chakra, there are associations with different signs and with the different ruling planets of those signs. So you'll just want to find which sign your north node is in. So for me, again, Aries is down here, ruled by Mars with the solar plexus. If you're Pisces, you'll have this sacral chakra that we'll be working with. So find whatever sign is associated with your north node. And if you're not very familiar with chakras, I'll walk through this when we're actually doing the meditation and kind of showing where on the body you might be paying attention to. But really just take a moment to kind of soak in that color, because you'll be working with the color as well. And really thinking about that color as light. So these are a little bit brighter to help you sink that in. All right, so here are the pieces that we have for your practice. And this was a lot of preamble, but once you have this kind of concept down, you can modify this and change this and customize it to personalize your practice. So that's really my hope here, is that you've got this as something that you can keep for yourself. So what you'll have a drafted mantra or affirmation, right? And this doesn't need to be perfect. It's going to change. Very likely as you're in this meditation, it will become nonverbal. anyway. The real meaning is in the message. You'll have identified the chakra and the color associated with that chakra that your north node is placed in. And the only other thing you'll need is a comfortable place to sit and move for probably about 20 minutes. And again, you can pause whenever you'd like if you want to spend more time in a particular part of the practice, or you can kind of listen through the piece and then practice afterwards. Your call. This will be available online for you to revisit whenever. And so with that, I'm going to transition spaces so that we can actually sit down for our meditation and movement. All right. So we are actually going to sit down to practice now. I would find a position that, particularly for sitting, that you can stay in for at least 10 minutes. I believe when I timed this out before, it was about 15 minutes. So just bear that in mind. I am gonna be seated on a block, maybe a little extra block under my knee, because I'm still coming back from a little bit of a hip tweak. And so we are gonna be starting this practice first by locating where we're placing our attention. So I had mentioned before with the chakra placement that this is where we'll start. So if you had your north node placement in Rahu or Cancer, you'll be thinking about this space just in front of your third eye, or sort of the middle of your forehead. If you had yours in Gemini or Virgo, we're looking at the throat chakra. So again, just a few inches in front of your physical body space. For the heart chakra, we're working with Taurus and Libra. For the the solar plexus, we'll be working with Aries and Scorpio. Our sacral chakra will be Jupiter, Pisces, and Sagittarius rolled over by Jupiter. And then the root chakra is going to be Capricorn and Aquarius. And so wherever on that spectrum you are, you'll start by bringing your attention to that space. And if it's helpful for you to bring your hands to that space, kind of holding space literally for that energy, if that helps you in a visualization, that is great. At any time, if you feel like you need silence and just want to practice on your own, that is ideal. So as you are, you'll come into this seat here. Relax any extra tension that you're holding in your jaw and your shoulders and your hips. And begin to bring your attention to this space. And where your attention is landing, start to imagine or visualize a soft light. And this light begins to take on the color associated with that chakra, sort of a ruby red with the root chakra, gentle orange for the sacral, sunflower yellow for the solar plexus, and vibrant green for the heart, sky blue for the throat, and light indigo or purple for the third eye. And as you start imagining that light, maybe it's the size of a quarter, maybe it's the size of a baseball. Just notice what your mind is drawn to naturally. With your inhales and exhales, maybe you notice the quality or the size of this light changes. For me, it's like a glowing ember. And when I exhale, it gets a little brighter. When I inhale, it recedes a little in its light. And we want to first establish this space and get to know what energy we already have here. If you're holding your hands in that space, maybe you let those go. If at any time you feel the need to move or shift, or even if sitting does not work for you, you could stand or take mindful steps, still noticing this space. And as we're feeling like we can see and feel where the space is, to focus our north node, our growth, you can start to invite that working mantra or affirmation. Maybe first you start by remembering what stands out about the theme or mantra for you. What opportunity lies there for you? What can you get excited about? With your inhales and exhales, maybe you start to invite a part of the phrase. This could be aloud or silently. Maybe it's already changed for you and become more clear what your focus is. If your focus is more internalized work or about receiving and opening up, maybe you emphasize that on the inhale. And using exhales, focus on bringing things into the world, pushing things out of yourself. And as you work with this theme, begin to teach that glowing light this idea. Like you're sending your thoughts into that space. Like it's a message in a bottle. And keep your mind on this visual. Maybe the light grows or gets brighter as you share information, as you embed this intention. knowing that the suggestion will only bring about what is good for you, what growth will benefit you and those around you. We know that by working on ourselves, we work on the whole world. It's not a selfish act to focus on what your needs are, where your growth is. It's necessary for justice and change. As you're holding this idea, maybe you bring your hands back to the space where this intention, this ball of light is. Really feel like you can hold it and know that it's something that you've created for yourself, something that's safe for you, something that is from you. And begin to feel that light start to work its way into your skin, into your body. Maybe you almost press it into the space where your chakra energy lives, is seated. And take some moments to really breathe in and notice this light now inside of you, and this energy now moving in you. And we'll start to bring some intention to the breath, deepening your inhales, allowing your belly to fill up and the air to push up and into your chest and across your shoulders, and exhaling this out, releasing the space from your shoulders down through your chest, down through your belly. Inhaling, expanding that space, feeling the energy of your body open up. And exhaling that out. Feel free to rest your hands wherever it's comfortable, maybe your knees or thighs, or if you're standing or walking, maybe they're at your sides or your hips. And give your body the permission to move as it likes in gentle ways, maybe no more than an inch or two. And try leading that movement from the space of your chakra. Like if there was a string or something attached to that spot, just pulling it ever so gently. Where do you go? And what feeling sits there? Maybe you start to bring some more intentional movement, rotating hips, spine over hips, very slowly, very gently. Looking for the feeling in the body that we've just been working on. Is there a space that feels more calm and confident? A space and place that feels more anxious and uncertain? Maybe opening up across the front body is more comforting. Maybe closing and making yourself more safe. You can bring your shoulders forward, pressing shoulder blades together. Pressing back, bringing shoulders forward. And again, inviting whatever movement feels most natural. Noticing any tightness and how it triggers and engages and plays with that energetic center. And it's most important here you move as your body wants to. Very likely you can invite some space just by laying down on your mat or the floor or a couch. And giving yourself that space and permission to let go and relax. Still tapping into that space of work. And give yourself your own time to explore and find meaning. Whether you can intellectualize it or not. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.